Well, hello. Welcome back to another edition of Reading with Kelly Green. Is that what we're calling it? I don't know. This will be the second installment of An Action a Day Keeps Global Capitalism Away, written by Mike Hudema. If you caught the first chapter, or the first little bit, you will know that we did some radical cheerleaders and some other fun little actions that people could take part in. So an action a day. Are all you pissed off with nowhere to go, sick of the daily barrage of newspeak and itching to resist? Do you want to take a stand with fellow fun-loving humans against the forces of globalization? Then this is the book for you. So interestingly enough, this small channel, it turns out that the reading is my most popular video over a 2-day period of time, which is quite interesting. So we're going to get into it, read a little bit more. We left off with Why Corporate Welfare, and we're going into the Buddha Walk. So thanks for joining me on this little read along. I don't know, probably going to take 5 or 6 shows to get through this. Here is the 7th action by Mike Hudema, the Buddha Walk. Here we go. This action has its origins in the documentary movie Baraka, 1992, in the scene where a monk is moving ever so slowly and peacefully through a busy city street. Earth took that idea and adapted it one day in a large shopping mall. 4 of us started moving in super slow motion, all in a straight line, one behind the other, as the busy mall patrons passed us by. The action worked. Shopper after shopper stopped to watch as we made our way from the ground floor to the main floor. As people gathered, many of them wondered out loud about what we were doing and why we were there. Some of them thought we were part of the Fringe, an annual theater festival in Edmonton. Others remarked that we were simply strange, and one person suggested that we were going to steal something. All of these conversations happened within earshot, as if folks believed that because we were moving slowly, we couldn't hear what they were saying. Eventually, a mall security officer arrived and engaged us in conversation as we continued our slow progression through the mall. Security: you have to stop that or I'll have to remove you. Us: stop what? What you were doing. What are we doing? You're creating a spectacle. How are we creating a spectacle? Well, you're walking slowly. Yes, we are walking slowly. Well, you can't. You can't walk slowly in here. We can't walk slowly? No. Us, pointing to an elderly person moving across the mall very slowly. Well, what about her? She's moving very slowly. No, she's moving at the appropriate speed. You are moving too slowly. Can you show me what is the appropriate speed? I mean, how slowly can we walk and still remain in the mall? Security, getting flustered. No, you simply have to leave the mall. Leave the mall, or I will call the police to remove you. At that point, we left the mall. We didn't feel the need to press the issue with the police department. But as we walked off, a very strange thing happened. The crowd that had gathered started clapping for us and jeering at the security officials. These shoppers, primarily middle-aged people, were now clapping, partly because of the absurdity of the situation, and partly, perhaps, because we all have a desire to stand up to authority, and we get a certain sense of catharsis when we see other people doing that. This is one of the best actions for a lazy day when you want just a little something to do. Why the Buddha Walk? This is an excellent way of getting people to think about the pace of our lives. The contrast between you and your audience is truly amazing, and passerby find your slow procession fascinating to watch. Be prepared to get lots of people watching and asking questions. You can ignore the questions and have the audience derive their own meanings, or you can give out handbills or sign outlining your intentions. We live in a time when we all seem to be out of breath most of the time, running from place to place. This action lets you take a much-needed breath. At the same time, the action breaks people out of their routines, which is one of the first steps to change. Our society works on a set of rules that we don't recognize very often. It seems we have set ways of doing things, and if we don't do things in those ways, we are cast as weirdos or crazy. People who have traveled to other countries know that I'm trying to get at all too well. Most of our ideas are confined to what we know, and it is only when we see other ways of being and knowing that we can start to think about which of our internalized codes of behavior are reasonable and which ones are only there to oppress us. When we travel, we see new realities and different ways in which our society can work. This action breaks down those internalized rules and calls acceptable behavior into question. And you and or your audience don't even have to travel too far away lands to achieve that. What you need. All you need is a group of people who can walk slowly, and the slower the better. You can also add props or costumes. One day we used a box with the word consumer written on all of its sides and went slow motion shopping. When we walked along the mall corridors, we moved in slow motion, and when we went through stores, we moved in fast forward. This action works well with no props at all, so anything you add is just icing on the cake. This is the easiest action in the book. I love it. Okay, number 8, action. Critical mass. Oh, I forgot to tell you how this rated on the fun and ease scale for the Buddha walk. So it's 4.5 out of fun, 2.5 on the risk, and half on the resources. Critical mass, number 8, 4 for fun, 3.5 for risk, and resources looks like a spray can or a blowhorn. I don't know. Or just one. The critical mass is one of my favorite actions. The critical mass movement is based on the act of bicycles taking back the street. Instead of cyclists being squished to the side of the road, in this case dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of bicycles take up every lane of traffic and have a safe ride from one location to another. This action has been used around the world and is an easy way to start community conversations about car pollution, public space, and alternative forms of transportation, or just to improve bike safety. Starting at an agreed-upon location, cyclists take to the street, riding en masse along a previously designated route. Some cyclists ride ahead to block traffic at streetlights and to make sure that the group stays together. Others ride around, handing out pamphlets explaining the action, but most of the cyclists just ride. In Edmonton, critical mass rides began in the early 1990s. In recent years, the number of participants were waning a little, and something needed to change. In 2003, that something turned out to be the introduction of theme rides, which are just like theme or costume parties, except on bicycles. We had a different theme every month, with the highlights being the Halloween and Santa Claus rides. Even though the temperature at Christmas time was minus 30, just picture 50 Santas riding down the busiest street in your town or city. Critical mass rides have been done in many cities, so check around to make sure you're not duplicating work. If there is no critical mass ride in your town, then get it going. You'll be amazed at how many zany bike-related ideas pop up after a ride. For example, one bike activist hooks his bike up to a small electrical generator connected to a blender to make bicycle-powered smoothies at the end of every ride. So there's a lovely little picture, and I just want to guess that it's Jan, our friend here in Edmonton, who was that bicycle-powered smoothie maker way back in the early 2000s. So why critical mass? These days, safely riding a bike down a busy road is next to impossible. Most streets don't have bike lanes, and cyclists find themselves forced to ride dangerously close to the side of the road as cars continuously whip by and cut them off. Many cyclists ride illegally on sidewalks because of how dangerous it is to be on the road. Our entire lives seem to revolve around the automobile. Instead of planning for sustainable alternatives, most cities are completely automobile-centric. Critical mass is an opportunity for the cyclists of the world to take to the streets and see what a car-free world would be like. This event is as empowering as it is fun. Being able to take over the streets and ride with others in complete safety produces a truly magical feeling. Critical mass rides also build community, a community of people who believe in the values of sustainable energy, a benefit that is truly priceless. What you need. With any action of this sort, you need outreach. For critical mass, you need first of all to make sure that people come out to the ride. And so you need to do intensive postering, use listservs, make announcements at other events, and use the media. Then you need to explain the action to the people around you as you ride. Handbills are a good idea, as motorists are likely to get pretty peeved if you don't tell them what you're doing and why. Giving them a handbill can help take some of the car angst away and ensure a safer ride for everyone. Information materials can be downloaded off the Critical Mass website, or you can make up your own. Local bike shops are among the best places to gain support for Critical Mass. They will probably put up your poster or otherwise help you publicize the event. This will help you get the message out beyond the cadre of activists to a wider bicycle-friendly audience. People who are not necessarily politicized, but are nonetheless willing to help out. After you have your outreach materials, it's just a matter of picking a time, a starting point, a route, and a finishing point. The last Friday of every month at 5 p.m. is the time for several Critical Mass rides across Canada. That time of day allows people who work to attend, and Friday is a good day to relax or let loose. It's good when choosing your route to take into account flow of traffic, accessibility, traffic lights, one-way streets, or any other hazards. Once you have your route chosen, appoint a few route marshals to block traffic at intersections and keep people safe. This is especially important during your first few rides, when everyone is new to the experience. After you've done a few rides, people will fall into whatever roles they feel comfortable with, and marshals will emerge. Before your first ride, travel along the route once with a couple of friends, just to make sure you don't overlook anything. Add 20 to 20,000 cyclists, and you are ready to roll. Okay, so on the theme of Critical Mass, we've got Reclaim the Streets, action number 9. It maxes out, I don't know if you can see those in there. It maxes out at 4.5 on fun, 4 for risk, and 5 for resources. Street reclamation has been practiced for years, and it's taken place on several different continents. It has enabled people to reclaim their power in a world that, it seems, has largely taken that power away. It's based on the principle that power, as a radical website puts it, fears celebration. The event takes a lot of organization and calls for a certain amount of leg and brain work, but it really gets the juices flowing and can be a lot of fun to get started. The first Reclaim the Streets action in Edmonton happened in 1998. The action coincided with 2 strategic happenings in the city: the Fringe, a theater festival, and the Critical Mass event. The reclamation planning took months of effort and dedication, surveying the area, deciding on a reclamation site, finding the equipment, dealing with logistics, organizing volunteers. We spread the word with leaflets asking people to meet at a certain location, though the place we named was not the site to be reclaimed, which was on the fringe of the Fringe Festival area and at the finish point of the Critical Mass cycling event. The police may take an interest in your event, but if your meeting place is different from your reclaimed space, they won't be able to shut you down immediately. In our case, we met at a local school 3 blocks away from the target location. Participants brought skipping ropes, sidewalk chalk, and puppets. The Fringe already had barriers set up, so that all we needed to do was slightly alter those already existing traffic barricades to create our own space. And we added a barrier made out of skipping ropes delivered by Critical Mass riders. A bus equipped with a turntable was already parked in the street, and we kept the parking meters filled with coins throughout the day. At 4 p.m., all of the groups converged: the group from the school, the Critical Mass riders, a barricade patrol, and the party security. The barricade patrol used the existing barricades to block off the south exits. The Critical Mass blocked off the north, the turntable was unveiled, and a DJ started busting tunes as the street flooded with people. All of this happened in about 5 minutes. Being close to the Fringe Festival meant that we had an already established party atmosphere to work with. Lots of people joined in. Some of them thought that our event was simply an extension of the Fringe. The police arrived in 30 minutes, but by that time, they were unable or unwilling to do anything about our action because A, there were too many people, and B, people thought it was a Fringe event and any police interference itself would seem to be a disruption. Although the police didn't like it, they let the event continue and diverted traffic around the party. The event concluded at 8 p.m. and two people were eventually arrested. Why reclaim the streets? I think I can best explain this by offering 2 quotes from a Reclaim the Streets website. I shall put that in the comments, reclaimthestreets.net, in the description. Reads as follows: "The privatization of public space in the form of car continues the erosion of neighborhood and community that defines the metropolis. Road schemes, business parks, shopping developments all add to the disintegration of community and the flattening of a locality. Everywhere becomes the same as everywhere else. Community becomes commodity, a shopping village, sedated and under constant surveillance. The desire for community is then fulfilled elsewhere, through spectacle, sold to us in simulated form. A TV soap street or square mimicking the arena that concrete and capitalism are destroying. The real street in this scenario is sterile, a place to move through, not be in. It exists only as an aid to somewhere else, through a non-stop window, billboard, or petrol tank. RTS, Reclaim the Streets, is a stand against this erosion of public space, for it is, ultimately, in the streets that power must be dissolved. For the streets where daily life is endured, suffered, and eroded, and where power is confronted and fought, must be turned into the domain where daily life is enjoyed, created, and nourished. A street party demonstrates how we can make our own fun without asking permission. For a few hours, the longing for free space is not simply an unfulfilled dream about escape, but the transformation of the here and now. And for another type of Reclaim the Streets action, wait for action number 39 later in the book. So what do you need for your Reclaim the Streets action? Drums, costumes, whistles, bells, juggling balls, beach balls, skipping ropes, dancing shoes, poetry, bubbles, and hugs, but no drugs or thugs. You also need to select a location that is both accessible to the public and somewhere you can easily block off for a period of time. The location is usually kept secret, so you also need an alternate location where people can initially meet and then move from there to the convergent space. You need to organize how you're going to block everything off and also determine roles for your group: media and police liaisons, people to block the road, and peace police to maintain tranquility. One word of caution. The organizers are legally liable for any damage caused during the event, which means that you should plan how to keep the identities of the organizers a secret. For more information, check out reclaimthestreets.net. I love Reclaim the Streets actions, and I had to smile broadly while reading that because I know exactly the location here in Edmonton where they pulled off that action, and it was a favorite place that was used a few times in Reclaim the Streets actions. And now we've seen over the last couple of days that municipalities around the world have actually reclaimed some streets and created public space where roads and cars once dominated. So let's keep those actions going. Let's reclaim our streets and our cities and our public spaces for ourselves. Okay, number 10. How are we doing for time? 17 minutes. Not bad. Pardon me while I have a sip. Number 10 action, information booth. 3 on fun, 2.5 on risk, and 3 on resources. My friend Karina Monroe came up with this idea when we were at a folk festival. We were getting a little tired from all the activity, and Karina suggested that we go sit and relax in an abandoned information booth. We sat down behind the booth's counter and started talking, but before long, people started coming up to us and asking for directions to the various events and stages for the festival. They all seemed to assume that we had the information they required. So, we decided, why not set up our own information booth? And that became the impetus for this action. Build a structure, put an information sign on it, and get ready to give information. Your information. When someone comes up to you and asks for directions or whatever, before directing them on their journey, tell them a little about the situation in Sierra Leone, or the problems the Lubicon Cree are facing, or whatever issues you're working on. You may even have a petition or letter for them to sign. Why information booth? An information booth is culturally recognized as a place where it is okay to ask questions. We all have information that we want to get out into the world, and this action allows you to dispense it to people who come to you for advice. They can take it or leave it, as they wish, but at least you've had a chance to offer it. So there's a couple of funny little pictures regarding that. Information booth. Clever. So what do you need? The first thing you need is a booth. Any kind of makeshift structure will do. But the closer you can get to the actual thing, the better. If people see your venue as a real information booth, then more of them will approach you. You can get wood by dumpster diving and find the rest of the stuff you need by other means of foraging, or by borrowing, or even, horrors, buying it. Of course, you also need the information you want to dispense, and you may want to have letters or petitions for people to sign so that they can take action on the information. Check out the legal implications around the placement of your booth. Private property is out, but most public sites should be fair game. Coordinating your booth with a sporting event, festival, or a fair will add to your credibility and increase numbers. Number 11, voicing homelessness. 3 on fun, 2.5 on risk, and 3 on resources. Choose one person to dress up as a stereotypical homeless panhandler. So this bothers me a little bit. This was brought up in some of the other actions, and it reminds me of the impetus of food not bombs in Boston way back 40, 50 years ago or whatever. Keith McHenry talks about organizing something where they needed to pretend to have a soup kitchen, and they couldn't organize enough people to dress up as homeless people, so they actually went down to a shelter and recruited a bunch of homeless to come and be part of that action. Now, in 2025, there's no shortage of homeless. And it also might be a little bit weird cosplaying as homeless. Anyways, we'll get through this. Your panhandler sits on a busy street and puts a hat out, as if begging for change. As she or he sits there, a nearby participant, hidden from view as much as possible, plays a tape of recorded voices expressing various, objectionable, pejorative, typical thoughts or stereotypes that people associate with panhandling or homelessness. You're a drunk, a bum, take a bath, get a job, get out of town, that sort of thing. You play the tape loud enough for people walking by to hear, but not so loud that it overwhelms the effectiveness of the action. With the tape concealed, pedestrians are confronted with both the sight of the panhandler and the conflicting sounds. Why voicing homelessness? This action makes explicit stereotypes regarding homelessness and poverty. It brings prejudices to the surface and forces a confrontation with our inner selves. This action refuses to let people simply pass a homeless person by, pretending that person doesn't exist. Instead, the action speaks out common inner thoughts and makes people deal with them. The idea is that we all need to realize our connection to each other and that anyone's suffering is our suffering. Sufi interruption. One day a man walked to a friend's house and knocked on the door. "Who's there?" his friend asked. "It's me," the man replied. "Well then, I cannot let you in, for there is already too much distance between us." After wandering the countryside for 3 years, wondering what his friend meant, the man went back and knocked on his friend's door once again. "Who's there?" asked the friend. "It's you," the man answered. The friend opened the door. What you need a stereotypical homeless outfit and a person brave enough to sit and ask for money. Not an easy thing to do. You also need a tape recorder with a tape of the voices. We recommend that you use a variety of different sounding voices. A good brainstorming session for ideas helps. It's also a good idea to have watchers, people who watch over the action and ensure the actor's safety. This is a good tip for any action that you do. Always have someone nearby and a little outside the action who can deal with any problems that arise from police, rude people, or simply the common zaniness of life. So again, to editorialize, sorry about that. I'm not sure that this was a good action or an appropriate or even necessary action in 2025. Clearly, the homelessness issue is for everyone to see every day, every town, every city, across North America, Europe, probably the world. Okay, enough of that. Number 12, fishing in the sewers. 2.5 on fun, a half point on risk, and 1 on resources. Okay, here we go. I tried this action on a city street in Calgary. 2 people sit on a lawn chairs on the edge of the sidewalk on either side of a sewer. They're holding fishing poles, apparently fishing in the sewer. The 2 people can be dressed up if you want, and from time to time should complain about never getting a bite. A short distance away, another person hands out handbills explaining the action with a petition or letter ready. Or you can have a sign in front of the fisher folk explaining what is going on. Why fishing in the sewers? This action gives voice to water issues, the freshwater shortage that the earth is facing, and one of the most serious problems on this planet. The action can also focus on our daily use of water, or on what we put down our sewers and never think about again. And it can ask passerby to consider their own water consumption. The idea of fishing in a place as polluted as our sewer system easily connects to the issue of contamination of our food and water supply, as well to the state of our oceans. This action brings all of those connected concerns to the surface, combining it with a petition for stronger water pollution controls, information on the water shortage problem, or daily consumption statistics makes this an effective action. I might add, in February of 2025, the coveting of Canada's water by the current United States President and administration should probably be highlighted. So what you need to start, you need to do a little research on water issues and decide on a focus for the action. You can probably get all the information and angles you need from environmental groups in your area. Canadian scientist and environmentalist David Suzuki provides water statistics in most of his books, and information can also be gleaned from the David Suzuki Foundation at davidsuzuki.org or Council of Canadians, councilofcanadians.org websites. There are a myriad of other internet sources too. After collecting what you need, make up a handbill, petition, and letter or sign. Many of these materials are probably already available through the organizations you consulted for research purposes. And there we have a little Fisher person in the Fisher sewer. Other than that, all you need to perform your action are 2 people who like to complain, plus 2 fishing rods, 2 lawn chairs, and a sewer in a busy spot of town. Easy peasy. Number 13, gas mask car shopping. This might be the last one. This is one of the funniest actions on 2 wheels. Before taking to the streets of Quebec City in April 2001 to demonstrate for a new world and against the FTAA, a group I was involved with called FUNK, Fighting Unaccountable Naughty Corporations, went to the local Army surplus store to purchase gas masks. Later on, we wanted to do something fun with the new toys, and that's where gas mask car shopping originated. 2 people wearing gas masks walk into a car dealership to look at cars. They wander around the sales floor, mingling with customers, ready to talk and ask questions, and armed with statistics regarding car pollution that they throw out to the other customers. In our experience, when we did this, the looks from both the customers and the sales staff were priceless. We continued to walk around, appearing to be interested in various makes and models, chatting with each other about torque and powertrains, and using other car-related jargon. It only took the salespeople a few minutes to get over their confusion and approach us. Amazingly, despite our appearance, they still seemed to think that we might just be willing buyers. That is when our questions began. How does the fuel efficiency of this vehicle compare to a bicycle? How much pollution does a car release compared to a person walking? What effect will this car have on greenhouse gas emissions? The salespersons tried their best to answer, but for the most part were left shaking their heads as we left the store and proceeded to the next dealership. Why gas mask car shopping? First, this action is fun if you don't mind getting hassled by or alienating yourself from people who work and shop in car dealerships. Second, it brings 2 realities face to face. Consumer magazines are always expounding on the fuel efficiency of this car compared to that car, but they seldom, if ever, stop to compare a car to a bicycle. This action throws the bicycle and other modes of transportation into the picture. At the very least, it brings some facts about car pollution to light, and it just might influence some shoppers' decisions. Just knowing that an SUV is less fuel efficient than a Model T Ford should worry us all. And there is the offensive SUV from 2003 or 4, and now we've got the giant oversized F-150s that dwarf those gas guzzlers from 20 years ago. So what do you need for this action? Good statistics on car pollution are a start. Next, you need 2 gas masks. Painter's masks will do, but gas masks have a better look. Then you need 2 people ready and willing to bring forth the issues and possibly get kicked out of the store. If you invite media to this action, your timing becomes important because you want the reporters to catch the action in full swing. If you decide to do a media release, you need to discuss with your group beforehand what you want to say to the journalists. Using handbills is also a great way of clarifying your message. Number 14, radioactive garbage picking. 3.5 on fun, 1 on risk, and 2.5 for resources. Radioactive garbage picking. This action is similar to gas mask car shopping. This time, however, you and your group dress up in radiation suits. The closer to the real ones, the better. Then all you need to do is walk down the street, picking up garbage and acting as if everything you find is hazardous material. You have a sign on the back of your suit, or you carry a sign and handbills to explain the purpose of your action. For example, please help clean up the earth before disaster strikes. Your action can be completely silent, or you can talk and interact with each other and the crowd. Why radioactive garbage picking? Like gas mask car shopping, radioactive garbage picking presents an image of a reality that may not be far off. It's dramatic enough to grab a lot of attention, and people will be interested in what you're doing. Displaying one main message on your backs or on signs or handbills tells your audience what's going on, but you can also let folks figure it out all for themselves. You can choose to address the personal polluting problem, encourage people to take action against corporate polluting, or both. It's best to do this action on a busy Saturday, and it helps if it's a cool day weather-wise because radiation suits tend to get a little warm. What you need radiation suits or something close to them, like the white coveralls and masks and rubber gloves work too. You also need a simple message and a plan for how you're going to deal with your audience and the media. Do you talk to them? Will you talk in gibberish? Will you have one spokesperson or many? After laying this groundwork, you simply need the people. The more the merrier, and a location. So we're doing pretty good. 31 minutes. I'm going to run through one more, and then we'll call it a video, and we'll see you on episode 3 or 4 or never again. Number 15, corporate aid concert. This is 4 on the fun, very low risk with 1, and heavy on the resources with 4. Every year, corporations are sued because of their environmental practices, and, poor souls, lose money as a result. This action represents a chance for you to give back to those companies that experience such grief. In Edmonton, we did this action, which entails organizing a benefit concert after the phone company, TELUS, decided to raise its rates for local payphone calls from 25 to 35 cents. Payphones. Although the extra 10 cents might not seem like much to some people, for others living on low incomes, and especially those who don't have a phone at home, the increase made life considerably harder. Since the phone company seems to desperately need extra money, after all it had raised its rates, we decided to organize a TELUS Aid concert for it. We charged admission and made it clear that all proceeds were going to the big boys who never seemed to have enough. In the end, we raised a little money and presented it to the company, which not surprisingly refused to take it. So instead, we donated the funds to an inner city organization. Why corporate aid concert? Like most of the actions in this book, this one is big on parity. By announcing that you're giving to corporations, you find another way of highlighting their environmental, human, and labor rights abuses, as well as their all-consuming need for the dollar, especially the public's dollar. This action is also a good way of getting people to rally together for a common cause in a positive and fun manner. Artists and musicians can be brought together for the event. Even the ability to galvanize members of the arts community around a political issue is enough to make this action worthwhile. The follow-up to the concert is important too. You should go to the headquarters of the corporation or business in question and present them with their charitable donation. It might also be fun to take them the paperwork necessary for applying for charitable status. This can be found on the appropriate government website. What you need. This action requires more prep than the others because it takes a while to line up bands, secure a venue, get equipment, and publicize the event. If this event is going to be successful, you need to try to get as many different community groups together as possible. This extends your reach and your organizational ability. Different community groups also add to the feel of the event. A diversity of performers, theater artists, musicians, and painters can also help you create the fun and festive atmosphere needed to ensure success. Next, you need a place and the equipment to allow the performers to put on a good show. Community halls are great venues. Some community halls come with sound equipment, but if they don't, try local unions to see if they will donate to your cause. Now that you have a venue, performers, and equipment, you have come to the most important part, publicity. It is important to get the word out as much as you can. Put up posters, tell everyone you know, and send out press releases. Obviously, you're going to encourage the other groups that are involved and the artists to also send out the notice to their contacts, which today is largely going to be through the social media. So who would you do a giant corporate aid concert for? I'm thinking giant oil companies, maybe, I don't know, Doge? No, U.S. government. Yeah, they're feeling pretty broke these days. They got to cut all that spending. Maybe do a fundraiser for them. This reminds me of, again, how Food Not Bombs got started 40, 50 years odd, where they put on a bake sale. They dressed up in army uniforms, went to a local park, and put on a bake sale to buy fighter bombers. Brilliant. Regardless what actions that you're going to do or partake in, I mean, it's all good. Raising awareness, getting out there, getting active, doing something, right? So let's try and break out of this box here, read more of these, and get out in the communities. Let's start organizing. Let's start taking back the streets, doing critical mass, throwing some parties, doing some fundraisers, raising awareness, doing all kinds of clever things to jar people out of their complacency, or more succinctly today, jar people out of their, I don't know how to describe the mental situation that we're all in on February 20th, 2025. If you're watching this anywhere close to that date, you know what I'm talking about, what's going on down in the States and around the world. If you're watching this in the future, yay, future, we made it to the future. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I'm Kelly Green. This is An Action a Day Keeps Global Capitalism Away by Mike Hudema. Come back next time when we carry on with action number 16. All right, see you guys. Thanks for coming by.